About XXE attack, which is XML External Entity Attack. It is one of the attack which comes under injection attacks. Okay, so it's one of the injection vulnerability. Now, before discussing XXE in depth, firstly let us know what is XML. XML is extensible markup language. It is flexible text-based format used to store and transport the structured data. Now this XML is both human readable and machine readable language, and it does not have to be in the form of predefined tags like in HTML. So in HTML we have predefined tags like HTML tag, body tag, head tag, but here the tags are not predefined. We can create our own custom tags, and we can define our data and describe it in our custom tags itself. Now let us see like what are the some of the key features of XML. XML is self-descriptive. This means it is using custom tags to define the data. It is platform independent, which means it is working across different systems and applications. Then hierarchical structure. So here data is stored in the tree-like format. We have a root element and then we have child elements. Data is stored in that tree hierarchical format. Then it is supporting nesting and attributes. So like attributes are giving additional information with our with the tags which we will be defining. For example, if we are defining any tag, let's say employee tag, in the employee tag we are giving an attribute, let's say id equal to 10. So this id is an attribute which is defining the extra elements, like extra components along with the tag. Now this is how a basic XML code looks like. So here we have the student, we have the student tag, then we have name tag, we have age tag, we have course tag, and then you all can see that firstly we have a root element, that is student, and this root element is having the child element name, age, and like we are keeping like we will be closing every tag when we don't need it. Let's say in the name we have a value, now name tag we don't need, so we will close it. Now age tag, the value is 22. Now once the value is given, we have to close the age tag as well. Okay, all right. So now let's see the some of the use cases like why XML is needed. So the first thing is in, so like these are the main domains where XML language is required: in web development, in configuration files, in database and data storage, in scientific and research data. If I'll talk about web development, so XML is helpful in storing the structured data inside the web applications, and this is often used as an intermediary format to exchange the information between servers and the clients. Okay, now below I have stated configuration files. So there are a lot of applications which are using XML for storing like for storing the setting information and preference information. For example, .NET applications, Android manifest file. Okay, all right. Now we have database and data storage. So some databases store data in XML format, like base X, and we have EXITDB. Along with this, we have relational databases like MySQL, SQL Server, and Oracle. They can also store and query XML data. Okay, now like uh, like this is an easy way to transport and store data, so it's widely used. Now the next thing is scientific and research data. So XML is used for storing and exchanging the scientific data in healthcare, research papers, and in biological studies. And this is mostly used in storing the DNA sequences and protein structure in bioinformatics. So these are some of the use cases like why XML is required. Now let us see the basic structure of an XML document. Okay, so I am sharing my whiteboard and let's understand basic HTML, basic XML document. So whenever we are defining and talking about any XML document, firstly we have an XML declaration line. Okay, so the XML document will be starting from this XML declaration line where you have XML and you have its version. Let's say version is 1.0. Then we are having encoding equal to UTF-8. So UTF-8 is like it's a most common type of encoding format which you will be seeing in XML documents. So it's the first line and we call it as XML declaration. Okay, now see the firstly like see all the XML documents are being enclosed. The first line is enclosed in this angular bracket question mark. You have question mark and this bracket to close it. Now this is defining the version and then we have the character encoding. That's fine. Now secondly we have root elements and we have the nested structure. For example, if I will tell you we have a company and in the company we have an employee. Okay, now employee ID. Now employee is having its ID, let's say 100. Now ID is closed. Okay, now for example we have employee name, let's say name is Shruti and I am closing name also. Then below let's say we are closing employee and here I am closing company. So you can see that it's a nested type of structure. It's a nested structure. Now every XML document must have a single root element. Now in my scenario, so now in my scenario, just a second, let me change its color to black again. Okay, so in my scenario we are having this company and this company is basically a root element. Okay, so like here we have only a single root element. Then we have employee, this is the child element which is inside the company. Then we are having this value 100, so this value is enclosed inside the name tag. Okay, inside the name element. Now you can see that we have a hierarchy here. Okay, so this is how a basic structure looks like. Now see, now this XML is a case sensitive language. This means if you're defining a tag, let's say company, and if you're defining a tag COMPANY, both the tags are different. Like so the both are different. Why? Because that one is in lowercase and it's in uppercase. Okay, but HTML is not case sensitive, but XML is case sensitive. Fine. Now all the elements has to be properly enclosed, like with the see, if you are starting ID needs to be closed. You can't left it open. If you are keeping it open, then it is incorrect. Okay, we have attributes also. Now what are attributes? So XML elements, so like since it's an element, we have ID as an element. So these elements, they have attributes also, and these attributes are helpful in storing the additional information along with the along with the particular element. For example, if we have an employee, we can define employee name and ID in the form of attribute as well. Okay, so here if I will show you, let us say we have employee, then we have employee ID equal to 101, and then we have the department equal to, for example, cyber, and now I am closing it. Now always remember, like whatsoever, so this ID is one attribute and this department is second attribute. Always remember, whatsoever value you are giving in the attribute, this value has to be enclosed in the quotes, either in the single quotes or in the double quotes. It is the rule. Okay, all right. Now you cannot leave any element open, okay, because there is no concept of like open tags. Fine. Now we can also define comments in XML the same way we define in HTML using exclamatory sign minus minus. Here we have some data and then minus minus and then closing it. So the same way we are defining the comments here. Now there are some entities also in XML. We have a concept of entity. Now these XML has predefined entities to represent the special characters. For example, let's say you are defining note. In the note you are giving, like you are making a child element as text. Here you are writing, let's say use um, use I for italics. Let's say you want to define this and you have closed text element and you have closed the note element. Now this is wrong because these special characters are not allowed inside the XML if you are not talking about any element. Okay, so now what you can do in place of giving these special characters, you can give ampersand lt for less than and ampersand gt for greater than. Okay, so here if I will tell you some of the entities, we have less than, more than, ampersand, double quotes, single quotes. So this is ampersand g, this is ampersand lt, less than, this is ampersand gt, greater than, this is ampersand amp, this is ampersand quot, this is ampersand epos. Okay, there are other entities as well which you can explore and learn. So now if I have to define this as a value in these elements, what I can do is I can give use, yeah, use ampersand lt I ampersand gt for italics. If I will give this, then this will be the output what we were requiring for use I for italics. Okay, all right. Now along with this there are some more concepts which you all need to know. That is the concept of internal and external entities that we will be seeing now. Okay, in XML we do not have like direct concept of variables, just like we have in programming languages. You might have read in Java, C++, Python, JavaScript. We have variables. Variables are storing the values, correct? But in XML we are not having any variable, but what we can do is we can define entities. These entities are acting as the variables in XML document. So now let us talk about internal entities and external entities. So now you can understand that we are coming more closer to the vulnerability, which is external entity injection vulnerability, XML external entity injection vulnerability. But before this, let us know about internal entities as well. So these internal entities are helpful to define and reuse the values similar to variables. Now I am pasting one snippet here and we will be seeing that. Okay, so here can you see that we have XML version 1.0. This is the first line for the declaration. Then we have doc type data. Then we have entity, company, bitcover, cyber solutions data. Now we are giving, so this is the root element data. We are defining name, ampersand company name. Now here what's happening, this M% company, this entity is acting like a variable, and this will like, and once expanded, like once being passed and once executed, this will be replacing itself with this, like with this value, but cover cyber solutions, because we have defined the entity company and then we have given the value. Now name ampersand company, it is referring to the bitcover cyber solutions value. This is the example of internal entity. So these internal entities are allowing you to define and reuse the values just like variables. Now on the other hand, we have external entity. Now this external entity is allowing referencing content from the external file. So we have a file and we are referring that. You can see that we have an entity with the name external data, and this entity is trying to retrieve the data which is there in the information.txt file. Here we have defined ampersand external data. Now what will be happening, like once this will be executed, this will be this will be replacing its name with the data which is there in information.txt, and this method is vulnerable to XXE attack if it's not properly configured. Alright, now let's understand this vulnerability practically. So we will be going to port figure and we shall be solving labs. Okay, so let's know about like what is XXE injection vulnerability. So XML External Entity Injection is a security vulnerability that occurs when an application processes maliciously crafted XML input, which will allow attackers to read files or perform SSRF, or a hacker can do remote code execution if a application is vulnerable to XXE. So now how this XXE is working? Now the XXE is exploiting the XML parser's ability to process external entities. Now what is this XML parser? So this XML parsing is a process where an XML document is read, and an interface is provided to the user application for accessing the document, and the and an XML parser is a software that accomplishes this task of parsing. Okay, so now let's come to our port figure and let's see the labs, like how it is actually working. Yeah, so before going to the lab, just see one more thing, that the above is the example of an safe XML input, where firstly I have defined the declaration line. We have XML version 1.0 encoding UTF-8, and then I have the user element, then name element. In the name element, I have the value Shruti Kapoor. So this is the safe XML input. But now see the second scenario, that is a malicious XXE payload, where we have you can see that we have doc type foo. It is defining a custom XML document type definition. Then we have entity XXE system and the etc password file. Now this is defining an external entity to load. So now that file is etc password, which will be loading up. Now below you can see that we have user and a name. In the name we are using ampersand xxe. Now this will be expanding the entity. Now what will happen, the file contents will be leaked out. Now let's go to lab and see the practicals for the same. Alright, so let's solve this first lab. It is exploiting XXE using external entities. So let's start the lab. And here let's see the lab description. It's given this lab has a checkstock feature that parses XML input and returns any unexpected values in the response. To solve the lab, inject an XML external entity to retrieve the contents of etc password file. Okay, so fine. Let's go to the lab. We are having one checkstock option there. Yes, so firstly I am turning my intercept on, and let's see. So here we don't have any option, so I will be turning off the intercept. Now open the browser and we'll go to view details. I'll come down and we have a check stock option here. So go to Bob Suite, turn the interception on, and here I am clicking on the check stock. Now the request is captured. We can see in the Bob Suite. So now right click and send it to repeater. Now come to repeater. So here we are seeing this XML snippet, and now just now I showed you on the whiteboard two type of XML codes, right? So one was with the internal entity, second was with the external entity. So we are going to see that again. Can you see the second malicious XXE payload? Now I will be copying this doc type foo entity, this line, and then we shall be pasting the same in the request. Okay, so here we have etc file, etc password file, and yeah, so and this %xxe will be referring to the data which is there in etc password file. So let's copy it. Okay, we have pasted it here. Now see, we have XXE as the external entity here, which is referring to etc password. So in the product ID, firstly I will be checking by giving %xxe, as right now we don't know whether store ID is vulnerable or product ID. So here I am giving %xxe. Now once I'll do send, in the response we are seeing that semicolon is missing. So now I will give semicolon here again and I'll send it. We can see the result of etc password file and we are able to see it. Okay, so by this way a hacker can see this sensitive information. Now once you'll go to proxy, and if you will turn your intercept off, and if you will go back to the lab again, you will see that we have solved the lab. So I'll go up. Now I will refresh and we can see the lab is solved. Okay, now let's see the second lab. So all right, now okay, so this is a second lab, and here we can see that this lab is exploiting XXE to perform SSRF attacks. Okay, so now let's see its description as well. So this lab has a check stock feature that passes XML input and returns any unexpected values in the response. The lab server is running a simulated EC2 metadata endpoint at the default URL, which is HTTP IP. This endpoint can be used to retrieve data about the instance, some of which might be sensitive. To solve the lab, exploit the XXE vulnerability to perform an SSRF attack that obtains the server's IAM secret access key from the EC2 metadata endpoint. Okay. So let's access the lab. Okay, so we have view details. Let's click on this. Let's scroll down. We have check stock. Now above, yes, I'll turn the intercept on and click on this check stock button. Okay, now I'm onto Bob Suite. Let's go to post request and send to repeater. Come on, repeater, and see here. Okay, now here also I will be giving the same external like XML external entity payload which I gave in the previous lab. Okay, so let's paste that there. Okay, but here like we have to use this URL http colon this IP address. So let's copy this URL. Let's go to Bob Suite, remove this etc password file and give http colon / the IP address. Yeah, so here I have given it. Now see, now in the product ID here I will be renaming it to %xxe, and that's referring to this IP address, the data obtained from this IP address. Now once I'll do send, we can see that here okay, like it's saying delimiter and must end with okay semicolon. So once I gave, we can see latest in the response. Okay, now let's see what to do. We have got metadata. Let's copy it. Let's place it after